Hey, today I want to do a short vlog talking about the correlation of addiction and genius. And it doesn't take much if you're reasonably aware to see whether that be within your immediate community or even in more of a global scale of that there are many people we may consider to be genius in their particular field of expertise or fields of expertise, and they also on this very fine borderline of addiction and or in addiction, whether it be with the thing that they are putting their energy towards, or it's another thing that's sort of outside that. Maybe it's a substance addiction as an example, something like that. And the way I see it is we all have an inner addict. And we often talk about, in particular communities, about transforming things, into gifts and all of that, as shadows into gifts. And the thing I see with addiction that's a little interesting is that it's not so much about transforming, but it is definitely, there is a potential to transfer. And we can transfer that addiction into other activities and ways of being that are genius. I'm in communities that are full of people that are engaging in art and or healing on a regular basis. And a lot of them I would consider genius, like genius in their art form, and especially those that are engaging in the art space. There's also this accompanying other addictions that come with that. And I know as an artist that there's often space required, right, to then allow this inspiration to come through. Although sometimes we can fill that space then with other things, which can be challenging for what the purpose of that space is for, or sometimes it adds to the inspiration. To give an example, I'm aware of some visual artists that may use psychedelic substances to then channel through their art. That's just one example, right? And this other side of addiction that is, I would call it invention, right? I'm talking about it in an artistic way in the art world, but it's also there in, when you think about the science world. Not that they're necessarily separate, but when you can think of some really brilliant scientists and inventors, they were geniuses in their skill set, and they also had some very addictive personalities. And the interesting thing, right, is like we're so afraid of like this potential emptiness, right? And this is what our addictions are trying to fill, right? We're so afraid of this emptiness that could be there within us, right? And the most ancient addiction that I can be aware of at this moment is movement, right? Addiction to movement, to me, is what I consider as the most ancient addiction to the current human form. And hence why stillness, and when people talk about certain ways of being to bring in more health and wealth into your life, there's this emphasis on stillness, right? We talk about meditation or very slow movement practices, maybe like Tai Chi, where it's very, there's this heightened awareness of stillness and of slowness, right? And it's important to assist in bringing more of our consciousness online. But the interesting thing is that inside that emptiness is things like wisdom, love, and bliss. And yet we can externalize our seeking for that, through the form of addiction, right? That's what our addictions are trying to find. We're looking for the wisdom and the love and the bliss through our addictions, because we're afraid of the emptiness that may be there if we were still. And yet it's actually in the stillness and the emptiness that we actually will find the higher states of these wisdoms and blisses and love that we can often desire, yearn, need, if I can put those words in there. And I guess the point of, bringing in more stillness, right, and slowness into, whether it be in a lot of your life, or maybe you can create space for 10, 15, 30 minutes a day for that, is that we then give ourselves this opportunity, right, to choose how we use our restlessness instead of, giving over to an unconscious pattern, right? And the interesting thing, right, is that it can actually become quite spontaneous in that emptiness, hence the genius, right? These sort of inspirations and insights that come through, often I point to the head, but it doesn't all come through the head. It's just my nature, but it comes through, right, through that stillness and that emptiness. It's very spontaneous. It's like, oh gosh, don't know where that came from, but I got to write that down, or I've got to draw that, or I've got to speak that into existence. And yeah, it can really bring us into these states of euphoria through love. And there's this divine indulgence almost that we can engage in. And I'm sure there's many philosophies and belief systems that would advise you to not indulge, right? But what I'm talking about is a different kind of indulgence. It's as I called it, a divine indulgence. And it's probably not something I could fully explain in this vlog. I trust that you're aware of what I'm speaking into here. So yeah, if you've got any stories that you'd like to share about addiction and in the relationship to genius, you're more than welcome to in the comment section down below. You can ask me questions there. You can also reach out to me on various other social media platforms, and we'll see you soon.